We've all had managers, right? Some are amazing and some, well, not so much. But what really separates the good from the bad? What's a manager's actual job anyway? Over the next few minutes, we're going to peel back the layers on all of that and get right to the heart of what makes management, well, work. So let's just start with that big central question. What is a manager's real job? I mean, is it all about being the boss, just giving out orders? Or is there something way deeper, something more fundamental going on? The answer, it turns out, is a lot simpler and honestly a lot more profound than you might think. Okay, check this out. Way back in the early 20th century, a thinker named Mary Parker Follett just nailed it with this quote. I want you to notice two key words here, art and people. It's not just a science, it's not just about process, it's an art. And what's the main tool for that art? People. This single idea is pretty much the foundation for everything else we're about to talk about. Now, for the more textbook definition, management is all about coordinating and overseeing work so goals are met efficiently and effectively. Let's break that down. Efficiently means doing things right, not wasting time or resources. Effectively means doing the right things, actually hitting the target you were aiming for. A great manager? They master both. So, how do managers actually pull this off? Well, they pretty much follow a core playbook. It's a framework made up of 4 key functions. And you can think of these as the fundamental skills every single leader has to master. It doesn't matter if you're in tech, healthcare, or running a coffee shop. And here they are: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. This simple 4-step loop, you'll sometimes hear it called POLC, is basically the engine of management. A French theorist named Henri Fayol came up with this over 100 years ago, and believe it or not, it's just as relevant today. Let's dig into each one. First up is planning. This is ground zero. This is where you figure out your destination. Those are your goals. And then you draw the map of how you're going to get there. Let's say your goal is to launch a new app this quarter. The plan is the step-by-step roadmap of how that's going to happen. Because without a plan, even the most brilliant team is just flying blind. Next up, you've got organizing. See, a beautiful plan is useless without some structure to make it real. So sticking with our app launch, organizing is figuring out who's on the development team, what's the marketing budget, and who's responsible for what. It's all about building the machine that's actually going to get you to your goal. And then you have leading. This is that huge human element we talked about at the beginning. You've got the plan, you've got the team in place. Now the leader's job is to light the fire, to motivate everyone, communicate the vision, and knock down any barriers in their way. It's the huge difference between just telling people what to do and inspiring them to want to do it. And finally, there's controlling. Now, don't let the name fool you. This isn't about micromanaging people. Think of it more like steering a ship. It's the feedback loop. Is our app launch on schedule? Are we going over budget? This is where you monitor your progress. You compare it to the original plan, and you make smart little adjustments to make sure you stay on course. Okay, so not all managers are doing the exact same thing all day. The job itself and what's really required of you, it changes a lot as you move up that corporate ladder. The source material breaks this down into 3 different levels, and each one has a totally different focus. So the big takeaway here is how your perspective has to shift. At the top, you've got your CEOs and presidents. They're the visionaries, thinking 5, 10 years down the road. Then you have middle managers, and they're the crucial translators. They take that big vision and turn it into real plans for their teams. And then you've got your lower-level managers, like a team lead, who are the absolute masters of the day-to-day, making sure the actual work gets done right. And this shows perfectly how the skills you need totally evolve. A researcher named Robert Katz figured this out. When you start out as, say, a frontline manager, you need to have strong technical skills. You have to know the actual work being done. But as you climb that ladder, the need for big-picture, conceptual skills just skyrockets. But what's the one constant? Human skills. The ability to work with people, to lead them, to understand them. That's absolutely critical at every single level, no exceptions. Let's go back for a second to that very first function, planning. Honestly, it is the foundation for everything else a manager does. It is the blueprint that all the organizing, leading, and controlling is built on. I mean, without a solid plan, even the most charismatic leader is just leading their team on a scenic route to nowhere. So, why is planning so important? Well, think about what happens when you don't have it. Without clear goals, your team is just running in different directions. Without thinking about risks, you're just constantly putting out fires instead of making progress. And without smart resource allocation, you're just burning through your most precious assets, your time, your money, and your people. Planning is what brings focus and direction to everything. And the process for planning is actually pretty logical. First, you set clear goals. Then, you take a hard look at where you are right now, your strengths, your weaknesses, what's happening out in the world. From there, you brainstorm different ways to get to your goal. You weigh the pros and cons, and you pick the best path forward. And finally, you put it all into action and you monitor it, which, hey, brings us right back to that controlling function. It's a circle, it's always in motion. All right, so as we start to bring this all together, let's go back to that question from the beginning. We've looked at the functions, we've looked at the levels, we've looked at the process, but what is the real job of a manager, like at its absolute core? I think it all comes down to this really powerful idea from Lawrence Apley. The old school way of thinking was that management was about directing things, tasks, inventory, spreadsheets. But the modern view, the one that actually works, it's about developing people. A manager's number one job is to help their team grow, to help them succeed, to help them become better. Because when your people win, the organization wins right along with them. And that kind of leaves us with one final thing to chew on. Who's the better manager? The master architect? The brilliant planner who can design the perfect system? Or is it the inspiring coach, the amazing leader who can motivate a team to do the impossible? The truth is, the really great ones, the ones who change things, they find a way to be both. And mastering that balance, well, that is the true art of management.